Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Crypto Atlas. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about Bitcoin, doing some technical analysis, and giving you guys some updated news information, as well as I've been investigating something that seems pretty interesting, and I figured I would share that with you guys. If you are new to the channel, feel free to subscribe for more cryptocurrency news and information. And also, if you guys can, please make sure you hit that like button. For those of you guys that are coming back from my channel from before, it's good to see you guys again. I hope you're doing good. And let's go ahead and start off with this. So in this first article, they're talking about the fact that the U.S. Senate had rejected this stimulus plan, and it's looking very positive and very probable that we're going to get another $1,200 check sent out. So the Senate rejected a skinny $500 billion stimulus package, but for Bitcoin and stocks, it could be a good thing in the medium term. This is from the Cointelegraph.com. I highlighted a couple of the key points here. So they said it was $500 billion. It's actually talking about down here that it's looking for a new package plan that would include $300 billion. So if you put these two together, you're looking at $800 billion, going on almost another $1 trillion from the United States economy. But hey, the Federal Reserve, right? They got the machine that just goes brr. They can print out as much as they want to of this, all at the click of a button. It says that there's a high probability that the Senate would approve a bill that includes direct payments by the month's end. That's great news. I mean, we're on the 11th right now, so about another 19, 20 more days. Percentage of deposits equal to $1,200 significantly spiked after April from 0.1% to 0.4% by nearly fourfold. This is in regards to Coinbase. So what happened was a lot of people got their $1,200 checks. What did they do with it? They dropped it straight into Bitcoin. All of it. Exactly. Direct checks are the most effective, fastest ways to support American families. In the last 6 months, we received one $1,200 payment, which is not enough. And a lot of people do say that they need more support, especially when you look at a lot of people that were applying for unemployment, and there was so many issues with the system that they weren't getting their unemployment. So an extra $1,200 now could help them try and get caught back up. For anything that they may have missed in the past as like form of retroactive payment in a sense. Hopefully they still get all the unemployment and they get back on their feet, but just kind of think of it that way. All that time that you weren't getting the unemployment when you were waiting for the system to go through, this helps to kind of jumpstart you back a little bit more. So I think it's good personally if they do another $1,200. Obviously it's not good for inflation. Obviously it's not good for the value of the United States dollar, but you know what? I'm team Bitcoin. So if the value of the dollar goes down, Bitcoin price goes up. More companies are working with Bitcoin, accepting it as a form of currency. If I could buy the same things, everything else with Bitcoin, and I actually have more value amongst that, I look at that as a more viable option in the future. Short term, I'm looking at it as a store of value. Long term, portion of it for store of value, but I do want to spend some of it at some point to do different things. Also a quick side note. So guys, I'm not a financial advisor. Everything I'm saying, take it as a grain of salt. Entertainment purposes. You should always do more research, that kind of stuff. But yeah, let's go ahead and look at the next thing here. I went on to Google Trends, right? I saw some of these other cryptocurrency YouTubers. They're talking about Google Trend with the CME gaps and stuff like that. Well, if you take a look right here, where do you see the search for Bitcoin? Not very high. It's not an all-time high. In fact, it's really low. It's at 52. So you have this steady drop down of people actively looking up Bitcoin, which means that things are starting to get pretty quiet. And if you do technical analysis, you know that the trends can only go on for so long until they reverse. So the fact that it got really high popular search results for some reason, and everything started to die down. And a couple key things here. So when you look at it in the last 1 year, with where we're at right now at 52, I wanted to see the lowest point. The lowest point occurred at the 39. This is back on December 8th to the 14th. And what was it that followed it that started to have that rise of interest again? So this is around December 15th to the 21st, right? Okay, so highlighted December 15th to the 21st, you can see that the price on the open was 7,124, and then the 1 week later ended at 7,220. But on December 18th, it actually had a drop down to 6,540. That was the lowest point before it actually closed out a little bit higher here. So it had, if you look at it within that whole time period, December 1st to January 2nd, you can see most things are in the $7,000 range, but then it started to dip down even lower into the $6,000 range was even potentially looking like it might go down to the 5,000 range, which is going to raise a lot of concern for people, but also a lot of hope for people buying back in, right? So during that time period, it was very interesting. In fact, there was an article. This is on CoinDesk, but this is an older article. So this is back on December 16th, which fits right within that range of what we're looking at here. So it would have been right here on this time, right? And in this article, one of the key things that they had identified back then, prices jumped from $7,300 to $10,350 in the 2 days to October 26th, reportedly due to Chinese President Xi's, I'm not quite sure how to say his name, Xi, encouraging comments on the blockchain. The move, however, failed to attract sustained buying, and prices fell back to $6,515 on November 25th. The decline was also possibly influenced by miners selling off their Bitcoin, as noted by prominent analyst Willy Woo. Well, you got people like Grayscale, and you got a lot of these other big financial investors, which reportedly a lot of people are speculating that they're buying over the counter. And because of that, we're not seeing big price fluctuations. But if the miners start pumping out their currencies and putting it out onto the exchanges, then we could see a big dramatic impact, right? And right now, you are seeing the hash rate being at its highest levels, which means the difficulty to mine is even harder, which means that if you're a miner, the probability of you making a profit is going down. And if the price is staying low, you're trying to find ways to get that price pumped up so that what you do have available, you can put out there and you can actually make a profit. As a miner, you need to be concerned, right? Because if the price continues to drop on the exchanges, the people that are going to buy it from you over the counter, you can't really have a big difference there. If I came to you and I said, on the exchange right now, it's at $10,300. I'll give you $10,350 flat rate for all this, right? Per Bitcoin. And I'm going to buy this big bulk package plan. All right, I know I'm going to make a big profit off of that. And the person that's buying over the counter, they got a little bit of leeway. If they want to, they can actually put it on there and they can speculate a little bit. But what if there's nobody that's really buying it that has the big money over the counter? Over the exchanges, right? If they're doing it all on the back end side, the price isn't changing. And the miners, if they're making less and less money because more people are getting into the game, more people are trying to be able to actually get the Bitcoin, all that stuff causes their profit margin to go down, and over the counter starts to become less viable, and it looks more promising to actually do over the exchange, right? Hopefully this makes sense for you guys. So the decline is also possibly influenced by miners selling off. Grayscale was already at this point in time buying out a lot of different Bitcoin. We obviously have more big players now than we did before, and we also have the halving event that took place after this article was set up, so the supply rate is different. But keep in mind that miners were selling off their Bitcoin, and this was suggested to cause part of that big crash back on this. And so this was saying leading up to October 26th. So if we go back to the Google Trends right here, October 26th, we actually saw a bit of a spike up, if I remember correctly. October, what was it? It just said October 26th, right? Yeah, October 26th. Yeah, so right there, you can see that during this time period, October 26th, it went from a 43 on the interest over time up to a 56. A lot more people were starting to look at it because it started rising up, and people are like, whoa, is it gonna do its thing? Is it going back towards 20K? And then you had a retracement that pulled back, and you can actually see this based on this chart here. So October 26th, right at this point here, you can see this massive increase between these two lines. So massive increase up, and then kind of hung in there for a little bit, and then steadily started to drop, and then just kind of fell into this flat zone right here, which then following after that, leading into January, the new year, started to show more promise, continuation up until in March, guess what? Boom, we had that big price dump crash. That big price dump crash, we're almost 6 months away to the day of when that had happened. The big drop started to take place. You're looking at right around March 6th, March 8th, right? March 9th, March 10th, March 11th, and on the 12th, 13th. The 13th is where it really started to drop. But March 12th, dropped down more. March 13th, dropped down more too. And think about it, guys. What just happened over here? You got September 2nd, September 3rd, started to drop a bunch. So from a 6-month perspective, kind of interesting. Seeing that going to March 2nd, March 3rd, 4th, 5th, went up just a little bit there. And then shortly after, started to see that drop. Drop, starts to pull back, accumulate a little bit, and then had a further drop. Will it do the same thing again? That's what we're speculating on, right? It could go up, it could go down. I'm showing you from an economic standpoint, historical trends, what could potentially influence these things. So it could be good for you guys to keep an eye on some of this stuff. So if that move happens, you can react to it faster, right? If you're looking to buy in more, then whether or not you're going to do it later or now, this is the kind of moments where you want to take a look at. Is it more likely to go down? Is it more likely to go up? Prepare yourselves if it starts to make this move. If it passes these lines, then there's your last basic buy opportunity. If you need to do your sell-offs where you want to do all your buy orders, everything like that too, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and close out a couple of these things here. Got those done. And the stimulus check, right? So another thing we could take a look at here. This was back on April 15th when the first stimulus check had gone out. So is it a bullish indicator? Well, we already know that a bunch of people, when they got their first stimulus check, that they dropped it on Coinbase. We could see the trend. It went up by 4 times, right? From 0.1 to 0.4. So if it was to happen a second time, how does that kind of impact this? Well, let's take a look. Back on April 15th, what exactly happened with Bitcoin? Back on April 15th, we go right back to over here. You see April 15th, price is going up after it was already going up here, but April 15th, continuation, climbed, and then it kind of fell into this flat zone area. So potentially the release of another stimulus check could be beneficial to increases in the stock market and trying to prop that up even further, as well as potentially into cryptocurrency and Bitcoin itself having a further rise, which if this stays consolidated with where it is now, stimulus checks might be just that extra little push that's needed to break it above the 10,500 level. Since we're starting to find it more as a resistance right now, we want it as a support, right? If we could stay above it and it keeps dipping down below, it's more likely to bounce off and then go off to the moon. Then you're looking at retesting 14,000. Then you're looking at the $20,000 type range. So this historical trend, bullish, will happen again? Potentially. We don't have a lot of stimulus check history to really look at, right? We don't have 2-3 different instances. Ideally, if we had 2 instances and there was a third stimulus check, we could identify a little bit more of the likelihood with this. But looking at the historical trends, it's a little bit more. You know, if I was looking at it percentage-wise, you're like 55% compared to 45% that it's going to be bullish with the release of the stimulus checks. I mean, it makes more sense, but like just to play it safe with that. All right, a couple other things here in the news, and then we'll take a look at the stuff on the charts there. So looking at this, you can actually see that there's a video over in Hong Kong. They're really pushing hard, trying to promote Bitcoin. There's a little video here you guys can actually see. Bitcoin buses going by, be your own bank. Magic internet money hashtag is what they're using there, and there was more than one of these buses. So they're really pushing hard. They're actually getting funding from the public to be able to do this push. There's another one that's actually getting ready to come by there too. Also, when you look at the stock to flow model, there's another stock to flow model, which I wasn't really aware of. This is called the praise model, or I believe it's pronounced praise. And I came across this on Twitter when they shared this. A lot of people seem to be showing some common interest in it. This is suggesting that in January of next year, we're not looking at a very high likelihood. That's funny. They actually put 2022 there. I think that's supposed to be... oh, wait, no, this is for every 4 years. My bad. So you're looking at this part, and then you go over to the next section here. There you go. Now it shows 2021. And the baseline at the very bottom shows at just under $9,000. as it is right now, yeah, it could go down further if it just straight up plummeted for some weird reason, which you can see this massive gap that took place back here. But let's just say hypothetically it just dropped all the way down. Then even right there, you'd be looking at right around $4,000, just under $4,000 as its absolute lowest point, which would still be insane and not look that great for Bitcoin. I'm not saying that it would hold it back, but it wouldn't look good for it, right? If it pulled all the way down to something like that. So the likelihood of it going under $9,000 by the end of January, according to the Praise Winston model, Praise? I'm going to say Praise. You guys can let me know in the comments if I am saying that correctly or not. Praise Winston model to account for serial correction. So I thought that was interesting. I'm also really into, and I know a lot of you guys that have subscribed to my channel for this altcoin called Orchid. And I just wanted to take a really quick look at it before we finish up with the look at the Bitcoin chart itself. So we have set up this, and it's basically established itself as a symmetrical triangle here, looking at it on the daily chart. And we had a little bit of a breakout here. The price started to rise up as it was on above the resistance level. But as you can tell, it's actually the bottom of the wick essentially was touching almost the top of that resistance, as well as the the bottom, the top. Anyway, I forgot how to phrase this. It's the top, it's the resistance and the support. It essentially touched both of them. I was trying to phrase the top of this or the bottom of that, and my brain is starting to swap itself around because of where it's currently placed too. Anyways, so yeah, it got really close to that. It's technically pushing downwards. We can readjust this a little bit more here just to see, since it's got itself a new position technically there. And wow, it's really snapping around, isn't it? Taking a look, zooming out just a tad bit here. Doesn't really change it that much. Essentially, we're still at that point where we should be seeing some sort of a major breakout. Everything's more or less in a consolidated zone. So yeah, did it technically break above on the top before? Yeah, but now we're seeing this new trend, and you got to try and adjust as the trends change too, right? The good news is that we're seeing progressively over time new higher lows. It's testing at the bottom. It does go down, but the very lowest point that it goes down is still higher than what it was previously, right? So that's a good indicator. This was lower, then higher, then higher, then higher, higher, higher here, higher here. So every time over long term, it's still technically reaching a higher point. So if you had bought it at this absolute lowest point here, you'd still be on the positive. Think of it that way. If you bought it way back here, oh wow, you're still doing really good. So that's a good indicator, but if it does break below this, then you should still just be kind of cautious. It could break all the way down to 27 cents realistically, and it may even try and reaccumulate back to where it was before. I don't think it would, but right around the 18-20 cent range, I mean, it's possible. I think that it's more possible that it's going to go up from a probability perspective with everything that's going on, especially if stimulus checks go on. Again, if Bitcoin has this big boom, it just starts to explode, you could see some major movement here. As of the new day, so we're about 2.5 hours in on the trading view perspective for Bitcoin, past the 5 o'clock zone here. You can see on the 1 hour chart, we're still above the 21 EMA. We pull this over to the day chart. You can see that on the day chart perspective, which is realistically where you should be looking at the 21 EMA anyways, is going to be still below, right? So we're still bearish. It's in this accumulated space here. You should start to see this evening out a little bit more. If there's another drop, then we could definitely see the 21 EMA line moving, adjusting with it too. We had a near bounce off of the bottom line here back on September 3rd, but right now we're just under the median zone of being overbought or being oversold. So it's all kind of average. It's starting to accumulate similarly to what it did all the way back here. It just kind of fell flat through all the space. But as you can see, as it fell flat through all the space, eventually got the fuel, kicked up, started launching high. And this formed essentially a Bart Simpson pattern right here. But you could also see that if we just draw a little line, that it is still creating this higher sensation along the bottom line of that support. and it hasn't passed below this other support line either. So that's another good indicator of Bitcoin being able to hold up strong so far. Personally, again, this is just personal. We're looking at technical analysis and seeing what the odds are for things. And then aside from that, we can talk about the emotional side, right? So if you want my emotional side, I want it to go down again. I want to be able to buy some more of this at a cheaper price and have a better percentage on what I have. Time's been going on, so a little bit more funds have been able to come in my way, and with those extra funds, I can put that in. So overall, I'm have a bigger gain. Yeah, I would love to see $100,000 Bitcoin. But you know what? The fact that it's giving me these little extra opportunities, if I put 50 bucks in at this level, guess what? That's still 50 bucks more than what I had before, and it's just hit $12,000, $12,500. If it goes back up to $12,500, that 50 bucks is also moved percentage gains in comparison to everything else. So we've had these trends of it passing past these levels. If it drops below, the likelihood of it still coming up is still there. Could it drop all the way to zero? Yeah, it's hypothetically possible. Is it likely to happen when we look at all these trends? No. So I'm excited for the future on this. I think there's a lot of potential of it exploding very soon, but my hope is that it's going to go further down so that I can add to what I already have. Some people have stop losses and they sell off and they do it more on a day trading perspective, right? I'm looking to gather as much as I can and hold my stance. Just boom, I'm prepared. If it drops 50, 60%, I'm cool with that. I'll buy more in, dollar cost average it out. Let me know what you guys think about all this news. Again, this actually turned out to be a pretty long video again. I just said that twice. If you guys are new to the channel and you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and I would love your guys' support, especially if you enjoy this information. And hopefully you got some new good nuggets of stuff that you got here maybe that you didn't see in some of the other people's videos. Drop a like, definitely helps us. Can we hit 50 likes on this video, guys? And drop a comment down below as well. Let me know what you thought about all of this today. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I will see you guys in the next episode.